Chairman Inhofe, Ranking Member Boxer, and thank you, Bonnie, for those very kind and very nice words. It's nice to be back with all of you today, and I was proud to serve for many years with you as a member of this committee. And we all served for a long time with our former colleague, the late Senator Frank Lautenberg. We all remember Senator Lautenberg's passion for chemical safety reform. He spoke so often about his children and his grandchildren and the need to do something about this broken law. For the longest time in his career, there was a tremendous standoff. Most of my Democratic colleagues recall voting in favor of his bill, the Safe Chemicals Act, which unfortunately failed to advance past the vote in 2011. I supported that bill enthusiastically, but it received no Republican support in the committee and had no Republican co-sponsors. There was a failure to find agreement between public health and industry groups and between Democrats and Republicans. But in his final days in the Senate, he worked very hard to find compromise with the opposing side, and he put his idea of perfection aside. Because his aim was clear, he actually wanted to protect children, to protect the most vulnerable, and to reform a broken law. The original Lautenberg-Vitter bill was introduced quickly. Many of its provisions needed clarification and improvement. Senator Vitter and I have been working to improve this bill, and frankly, these changes have almost all been on the public health side of the equation. We have been open, we have been transparent, and we have been inclusive. Everyone was invited to the table to comment on the legislation and provide feedback and suggestions. Senator Vitter and I are not accustomed to working together on environmental issues. We come to the table with different ideas, and we came to this issue with different priorities. There were times when negotiations broke down, but we always came back to the table because we shared a fundamental bipartisan goal to cut through the noise and finally reform this broken law. I think we all agree TSCA is fatally flawed. It has failed to ban even asbestos. EPA has lacked the tools to protect our most vulnerable, infants, pregnant women, children, and the elderly. Compromise is a great challenge and a tall order. But I'm here because in my heart I believe this bill will do the job. I believe we have the opportunity to actually reform a law and improve lives and save lives. And that is the challenge now for this committee, to ignore the rhetoric and focus on the substance, work through the legislative process. There are still voices out there with concern. I hear them, I want to engage with them constructively. But hear my concern as well. New Mexico and many other states have very little protection for our citizens. EPA estimates that the cost of evaluating and regulating a chemical from the start to the finish is at least $2.5 million. It's a figure that many states cannot afford, especially with 80,000 chemicals in commerce and hundreds of new ones every year. We cannot leave the people of my state and so many others unprotected. It's been 40 years since we first passed TSCA. There has never been a bipartisan effort with this much potential. Now today, the New York Times, and I'm sure all of you have read the Times today, talked about the examples of how to improve the bill. And this is in their editorial. They applauded the bipartisan, the editorial board applauded the bipartisan effort that has gone on here. And they have made several suggestions on how to improve the bill. They are good suggestions. They could help build more bipartisan support, so I hope that we can work on them together. It's been 40 years since we first passed TSCA, and this bipartisan effort can move forward. Before I close, I do want to address something up front and in the open. Criticism of the substance of this legislation is legitimate from both sides. It is a compromise product. But I urge everyone participating in this hearing today to reject attacks on anyone's integrity, character, and motivations. Unfortunately, I fielded a few of those in recent weeks. They did not concern me because they are absurd and unfounded, but they do a serious disservice to the legislative process. Instead, I urge this hearing to have a great and spirited discussion on the substance, but at the end of the day, as Bonnie said, let's not wait another 40 years to finally move forward. Thank you, and it's, as I said, wonderful to be back in front of the committee and to be with my colleagues. Thank you, and great to be with Bonnie.
Thank you, Senator Udall.